East side, B side, what side are you on?
Well, hello, Adam.
Hello, Brooke. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Doing all right. It's the dog days of summer. I think is what they call it. It's definitely feels like we're in that middle of nothing kind of like school's not happening. There's not much sports going on. It's the All-Star break, so like even baseball's not happening. Just feels very like kind of slow and hot,
Yeah.
and like just there's everything. I've got so many cool things coming, with the kid going to college and, the other ones, getting back into school. So right now it just kind of feels like a holding pattern, but a very
Oh,
like in a very hot,
a
stuffy
very
waiting.
hot holding pattern.
Yeah. How about you?
You know what? It's good. I can't really complain about much. I can complain about the fact that you do not watch Love Island, and I have nobody to talk about this show with, and it is driving me crazy because this season is the most savage season I have ever seen, and it is just like, OMG, I just need to talk about it with somebody, but nobody's watching it.
Well, and the funny thing is, I even thought about that earlier this week because you and I, like a lot of people, have downloaded the new Threads social media app,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw you post about it. But at some point where you're like, I need to talk to someone about this, and I'm like, man, I got no idea what this she's even talking about.
I'm like, I mean, like it was sad. Like you're not gonna have no idea what I'm talking about. But the basic concept is, people get on an island, get voted off, just like, you get a rose on The Bachelor or Bachelorette, whatever.
Well,
But
wasn't there a show called like Temptation Island where it was kind of like the whole thing where it like turns
I
into
think
like a
so.
giant hookup? Yeah,
Yeah, I think so. But like on here, the whole point is like to try to find love, whatever. That's what they say.
yeah,
And you like are coupled up with people, but somebody can come in and steal your person. So like if you were to
yeah,
go into the island and you saw, okay, I really like that girl, as they say, I think she's quite fit,
yeah.
because it's British.
Because it's Love Island UK. Yeah,
Right. So then you're like, well, okay, in the recoupling ceremony, because you're new on the island, they let you pick first. You pick this new fit girl. Well, now whoever she was paired up with is single. Well, the
like
episode, huh?
do the people get any? Does the girl get any choice in this matter,
No,
or
no.
that's that's disturbing?
No, but so here's the thing. It's not like, okay, so you're in a couple, but okay, the weirdest part about it is you do have to sleep in the same bed as your couple, or you can like sleep outside on the day beds or like whatever. But like if you're in the
Yeah.
room, because they're all in the same room, they're all in the same room, the couples sleep in the same room. So
Oh,
you and
see
your
that alone, I just wouldn't be comfortable.
yeah, right. It's everybody, it's one big room with like 8 or 10 beds in it, and everybody's just in that room. But like if you're in a couple with somebody that you don't really like or you're uncomfortable, there's
Yeah,
like
things aren't going well.
there's like a living room and then there's day beds because they're in Mallorca, so it's gorgeous weather. It's not, whatever.
Right,
So there's ways around it. It's just you can't be like, oh, I'm in a couple with you, but I'm gonna sleep in the bed with you. You can't do that.
right. Yeah, I I would last about a day before every single person in this giant room voted me off because sleep apnea and snoring. I could have the
Oh,
best love
they talk
connection on
about one of
earth.
the people on there. They talk about one of the people and they're like, who is snoring? Sammy. Sammy snores. And Sammy's like, yeah, but I
Oh,
slept good.
yeah.
So, I
So
mean, it
between
happens.
and then you toss in like the night terrors and the jump scares when I like jump up in the middle of the
Yeah,
night
you're
and
out on the
like
day bed.
talking in my sleep.
You're out on the day
I,
bed, dude.
I I'd be out on a dinghy in the ocean if
Yeah,
those people had their way.
pretty
They'd
much.
be like, we can't sleep next to this guy.
They've got you sleeping in the
I
pool on a pool float.
when I was a little kid, I used to get like I'd have friends on sleepovers who would like shake me awake because I'd stop breathing and they'd get concerned. I didn't realize it was like I thought my friends were just messing around until like later I was like, yeah, I think I got sleep apnea, and all my friends from like grade school and high school are like, yeah, no, duh, dude.
We've been
You,
trying to
you
tell you that for years.
Yeah, we've been trying to tell you you stop breathing a lot, and it's really creepy because you snore and then you stop to breathe. So imagine you've got this dinosaur sound, "Rrr, rrr," and then all of a sudden it's "Rrr." People are like, did he just choke on his own snore?
Oh man. So yeah, but this show, so basically, like if you recouple, then the single person usually typically has the opportunity to like get to know other people, and then like somebody else, they call them bombshells, another bombshell comes in and maybe they couple up with them. But on the episode that I watched last night, and I'm like maybe a week behind because it's like every single day for however
Oh
many
wow!
weeks.
So it's kind of like Big Brother, where it's like going all the time.
Yeah, it's just constantly going every single day. And so the episode that I watched last night, a bombshell, like I said, they call this new person that's supposed to like, ruffle feathers, the bombshell, like
Mhm.
because they're blowing everything up. She
Yeah.
comes in and she picks this person out of a couple, and they're like, okay. And the big line is, and you could totally have a drinking game with this because they have phones and like the producers will send them text message, and so then they have to read it out to the group, so it's always I got a text, and that's like the line, and like you listen for, and it's so funny because they'll be like I got a text, and like and then they have to stand up and read the text message to everybody. So this person, I'm trying not to like give too many spoilers in case somebody wants to watch it and talk to
Yeah,
me
I was
about
gonna
it.
say don't have to do it for my part, but
But so this guy gets pulled out of a couple, and so then the girl in the couple gets a text. She reads it out loud. They sent her home. They were like, "You are now single. You are dumped from the island." That's the first time they've ever done that. It was
oh wow,
brutal. It was savage. I was like, "Oh." In any
were
of
they?
the seasons that I've watched, it's the first time that they've ever done that.
Was there? Did they give a reason? Was there like some?
Nope.
Were they
They
not
just
playing
said,
the
now
game
you're
right?
single.
Or-
No, they just said, now you're single because this person had come in and taken her partner. And so they sent her the text and like, well, you're single, you're dumped from the island. So I think they just did it this season. They have been doing a lot of different things to kind of shake it up because this is like the 10th
Yeah,
season. So I think they're just trying
yeah.
to like shake things up. And that definitely was like, oh my gosh.
Like the road rules and real world. By the end, it became like a. I don't know. Maybe they're still doing it, but it was like all. It was also Survivor, and then they had like all these competitions they had to do on top of it, and like challenges, and you're like, wasn't this just supposed to be people living in a house and getting to know each other and being
Right.
real?
Yeah, the real
And
road rules
yeah,
challenge. Yeah, I remember that now.
it just feels like after a while they're like, yeah, these are people living in a house that kind of that's kind of lost its interest. So we'll have to keep throwing weird things in there. Like that's like I've thought about it. If Truman Show was real, by the time that he's in his like early 30s, they would have had to have started coming up with some crazy stuff
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
like keep people interested. Like I know they talked about. I think they had his father die at one point. That was a big thing. But there's just no way that you could have all these shows without having new information and new challenges or something new to spice it up. So
Yeah.
new bombshells.
And they do funny challenges, and like the challenges are even like I feel like this season are a bit like more like pot stirring because they're bringing out like all this old information that but it's making people upset with their partner and their couple.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I will
Because I mean,
never watch the American version because I just feel like it'll be too tame compared to the UK version.
really,
Like I feel like I'd get
okay,
bored.
fair. It wouldn't. You don't think it'd be like more over the top, like Jersey Shore level of just
No,
insanity?
because I think it's like CBS or something.
Oh, fair. Yeah, like Big Brother, the U.S. version is kind of very tame. I
Yeah.
remember like 15 years ago, they would have it on like one of the streaming or not wasn't streaming that, but like cable would have it on like some other channel. It was just like 24/7 on. And it was like Big Brother live, and it was just like boring. It was just people in the house like making dinner.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's what
Uh,
like I don't know, I can't say for sure that that's what the US version is like, but I just know since it is on actual television, like
yeah, and
broadcast
there's
television, there's only so much they can say or show. Like I mean, on the UK version, they're dropping cuss words left and right because that's over there, that's not a big deal. They cuss all the time.
yeah, yeah, they don't have the same FCC rules and the
No.
same, like what is it, the Parents Television Council?
Yes, the PTC. Yep.
Yeah, which would always, come along and be like, oh, those cartoon characters are too sexy.
Yeah, no, there's none of that over there. So, if anybody wants to watch Love Island with me, I'd be more than
Yeah,
happy to talk about it with
yeah, and just follow Brooke on Thread,
you.
and
Yes. Yeah.
and you guys can have a Love Island UK thread.
But anyway, yeah, I think that's all I got for this week. That's what I've been watching
Yeah,
mostly.
I have hardly watched anything with the dog days of summer and trying to work as much as possible. And I mean, the normal stuff like throw on like an episode of Almost Paradise or Murder She Wrote. I did see the Indiana Jones movie.
Hmm.
I don't know if we
Wait,
talked about that last week.
wait. Okay, I'm glad you mentioned that because I was talking to my friend Luke, who sat in for you a couple of weeks ago, and he said he had seen this meme where somebody was like getting trolled because they were like, "I was today years old when I realized that Indiana Jones and Star Wars are like in the same universe." Is that true?
They're not.
They're
That
not.
that no, that's never been set up.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
it's this. They're both like Lucasfilms, so they're in the
Hmm.
same like company.
Hmm.
But yeah, they've with all the expanded universe stuff, they've never even claimed. I mean, other than the fact that like there was the in I think it was one of the prequels in the big Senate scene, you had all these uh aliens and like the background you can kind of see like an ET looking character. They're like,
Okay.
oh, it was ET in the Star Wars universe, but like anything that it's been like that where there's like a little hint at something. But I've never heard that, and I would be today's years old if somebody said that they were the same thing. I could
Well,
see
because I
somebody
know
being
that
like,
you
I
are both into both of those. So I was like, I need
yeah,
to ask Adam about this.
that is not something I have ever heard. And I honestly, even if George Lucas said it, I'd be like, no, George, there's just there's no benefit to it. It's very strange. I could see like young kids getting confused, young kids like Zennials being like, "Hey, I haven't really watched the old Star Wars," but not realizing that Harrison Ford is in both movies because he's so much older.
Okay.
I mean, I guess, but that that seems really weird. Yeah, it's not nothing that I've heard, and I would be very disappointed if it was true.
Well, because I was like, I've never heard that before, but I don't watch, I'm not a Star Wars person, as you know, and I think the
Yeah.
last Indiana Jones I watched was um, like the first one.
So yeah,
So
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, it's that that was early '80s, so I was a little disappointed at how the movie did. I enjoyed it. Thought it was a lot better than King of the Crystal Skull, but I think Hollywood is in a bad spot right now. Where like blockbusters just do we need a ninth Mission Impossible movie?
no,
And
no, we
I think
don't.
that they're so out of ideas, and then now they're like gonna fire all the writers and use AI, which will just have like more bad scripts.
Yeah,
But it's a very strange time for Hollywood.
and well, then if they don't reach their, as we record on Wednesday, if they don't reach their a new deal by 11:59 p.m. Pacific time today, the
Mm-hmm.
actors are probably going to go on strike.
Yep, and I wouldn't be surprised if they do, and that's going to throw off a whole lot of stuff. I mean, even just the writer strike already has pushed movies back. And they're I know that they've spent a lot of money on streaming, and they've lost a lot of money because of the pandemic, and people aren't going to movies like they used to. And I mean,
Yeah, but
the
people were
big
starting to go back to the movies. Like, did
yeah,
you hear about they were calling it Barbenheimer because next week Barbie and Oppenheimer come out on the same day, and like so many people had bought tickets to make their own double feature that they started
yeah.
nicknaming it Barbenheimer.
So they're going to find a way to shoot themselves in the foot because if they get all this negative press when things are finally starting to come back,
Yeah.
it's kind of, we were talking about like the difference between the British Love Island and like the American Love Island because it's on a network. Well, like the Emmys came out, the Emmy nominations came out today, and to really not have a single network show get nominated for anything, like everything is HBO or streaming or Apple Plus, or I mean, like there's, I mean, I guess FX, which is on Hulu. I mean, even
Yeah.
Freevee is getting stuff nominated, and there's nothing like ABC, CBS, not even Fox. Like it's gone a really far away from like when we were younger, like even the '90s when it was, Fox was the outlier, and now it's like nothing is like I couldn't even tell you other than like NCIS, which is on regular TV. I don't think I watch any other scripted show comes from like a major of the top four like classic network TV
Right.
networks.
Right.
Kind of sad, but they've come a long way. And well, you wonder if like because of that, the broadcast rules and the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, and all their rules and regulations have made it so it's just unlikely for stuff to work on network anymore.
Oh, network TV. And then, of course, they've all got their own streaming services, but yet they're not. But the broadcast, like you just said, they're not coming up with these award-worthy shows, but they're making you
Yeah,
pay for like the stuff that you would regularly watch, like on, they like NBC pulled all their stuff off Hulu, and now it's
yeah.
all
Now
on
it's on
Peacock,
Peacock.
and it's
Yeah,
like
and like CBS, all their stuff's on Paramount Plus, and I mean I don't know where Fox has got stuff, but I'm sure Fox still
Fox
exists.
is
But
still
I
on
mean
Hulu because
they're
I
still on
still
Hulu.
watch like 911 and stuff like that on Hulu.
Okay. Well, I think isn't is does Disney own? No, Disney owns ABC
Yeah, Disney owns
and
ABC.
yeah, and ESPN. So Fox must be owned by
And
somebody else. Who knows?
ABC still has all their stuff on Hulu. So I guess they're kind of like, well, we're gonna let
Well, I think they
everybody
own
finish.
Hulu. Like I think Disney owns Hulu too.
Uh, well, that would make sense with the bundle
Yeah, because you can bundle
because I have the Disney ESPN Hulu bundle.
Hulu bundle. Yeah, I think I do too, but I don't
So
know.
then that would make sense.
The biggest news of my week that people will be shocked about is I canceled something this week.
What? No.
Yes.
Shut up. No, you didn't.
Yep.
What'd you cancel?
I evidently had an Audible Plus membership that was charging me $14.99
Oh, dang.
every month. Um, that I just kept, it was going on to a card I don't use very often, so I just never paid attention. And Amazon is clever because everything just says Amazon.
Yeah.
So and I'm like, oh, is that like, and I have like the monthly dog food that comes out, like, you know, regular like stuff I get all the time. And I'm like, I never know which is what. But I figured I'm like, oh, I had like 13 credits for Audible books. So I used all my credits. It took like 20 minutes and just downloaded a bunch of credits and then canceled my subscription. So pretty big day for Adam to actually cancel something.
I'm very proud of you. I'm
I
very
know
proud of
it's
you.
a whole new me. It only took 42 and a half years.
Have
They do they make it so hard because you say, oh, I want to cancel. They're like, oh, do you? You'll lose all your credits. They're like, okay, I use all my credits. They're like, okay, now I want to cancel. Like, well, if you just put your thing on pause, we'll give you some free credits. And if you don't want to pause it, then we can give you a half price for the next 3 months. I'm like, man, this is how I get stuck. But I fought through and I actually canceled, I think.
Well, you deserve a round of applause.
Well, we all have those moments. It's a growth moment for me. So I've got way too many things that I don't watch enough. But like even this last week, I've hardly watched any TV, but I'm paying for like 9 different streaming services. I
Well,
don't
I
even
was
think
gonna
it's
say
probably
8, but
more than 9.
I was gonna say 8 because
Yeah,
you canceled one.
I did cancel one. I need to figure out how to cancel my Kindle subscription because I also have one of those up there. I figured
Good Lord.
out Kindle Unlimited. So I'm slowly but surely I'm trying to become a real boy.
Oh man. All right, so this week it's episode 143, which
Yes.
means guess what, Adam?
I don't go first.
You don't go first. Are you okay with that? Can you handle that?
I can handle that. Yeah.
Well, this week, Adam, I've got something for you that I think you'll enjoy.
Okay.
It's not excuse me, it's not all murdery and deathy and stuff like that. It's actually a survivor
Good.
story.
Oh, those are my favorite. We don't get those off as often as we like, because understandably, true crime needs crime.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it would just be people making lunch.
But this one is there's a little mystery to this one, and we'll definitely get into that. So
All right.
we have some room for interpretation. This week we're talking about Ricky Megee or Megee, excuse me, Ricky Megee from Australia.
Okay.
So Ricky
Down
was
under. Put another shrimp on the barbie.
Yeah, I'm not even going to do it. I'll do a British one all day. I'm not going to do Australian.
That was a horrible Australian accent.
So sorry, Australia.
Yeah.
Ricky was born in 1971 in Gippsland, Victoria. He described his childhood as a really happy one until the family moved from Gippsland to Melbourne, where unfortunately his father took his life when he was, younger. Ricky worked a variety of jobs. He worked like as a carpet salesman, a prawn fisherman, shrimp,
Shrimps,
a nightclub doorman, a bouncer, and he was even an electrician. He eventually, through all his jobs and life transitions, became a bailiff.
Okay.
And even in his life on the right side of the law, he ended up on the wrong side of the law because he ended up in a fight in Perth and then went to jail for that fight. And then also he went to jail for some drug offenses. So he wasn't a bailiff for a long time.
Yeah. He got on the other side of the job.
So in January of 2006, Ricky had been offered a job at a government department in Port Hedland, which is in Western Australia. So, Ricky and his various jobs that he likes to do, he accepted a job. So he sets off on this drive and he's off to Port Hedland, and he's at the at the time, apparently he'd made this drive many times before. At the time, he's driving a 2001 Mitsubishi Challenger, and he takes the Bunteen Highway for a big part of this journey across the Northern Territory and the outback. So the events that lead up to what we're going to talk about and Ricky being stranded, there's a couple different versions, which is why I said, okay, there's some mystery here. Ricky ends up stranded. The first story that he says is that he ended up stranded and some hitchhikers approached him and they drugged him and they left him for dead. He later elaborates on this situation, this scenario, by saying that his car hadn't actually broken down, that he had picked up the hitchhikers, and while he was driving, they attacked him. And first he says it's a lone Aboriginal hitchhiker. He said he picks up this lone Aboriginal hitchhiker between the town of Kalrinji and Halls Creek. He says he believes at some point that this hitchhiker drugged his drink. He also says that normally he opens his own drinks from his car refrigerator, but on this occasion, he allowed this hitchhiker to open it for him. Later, the story changes a bit more, and this is the more commonly noted version. There was 3 men sitting on the road. They had run out of gas, and he offered to give them a ride to the gas station. He also says that while these 3 men are in his car and they're driving, one of them takes like a syringe that had some type of drug in it and tries to stab him, and there's a bit of a struggle, but they end up overpowering him. And he says he remembers feeling like dazed and confused, and then he blacks out. And that's the last thing he remembers until hours later. He also said that his TikTok, I don't know why I said TikTokers, his attackers, I got TikTok on the brain. His attackers,
they were TikTok attacking.
They TikTok this whole thing, even though TikTok wasn't around at the time. He says his attackers didn't leave him immediately. They actually overpowered him, and then they like kind of tortured him for a little bit. He says he later
Oof.
awoke in their camp and they had a gun, but they never used it on him, fortunately. He says they did bring him some water, and then after an unknown period of time, they disappeared. But they stole his shoes, but they left him with $12.30 in his pocket. And then he
Very
passed.
inefficient criminals right there.
Yeah, and such an odd amount. But he says after that, he ends up passing out again. But he says they disappeared, but they couldn't have disappeared because immediately because, and this is again where there's some mystery in the details, because he says he passes out again, and then this time when he regains consciousness, he's in a hole covered in black plastic, and like some rocks and dirt have been thrown on top. So we've
Oh,
got multiple different versions now, because now we've got the lone Aboriginal hitchhiker that drugged his drink. Then we've got the multiple men sitting on the roadside who'd run out of gas, and they left
with the
him.
syringe.
Right, and they've attacked him with a syringe, and then they've left him. But then he says he later woke up again, and he was in a ditch covered in a black bag. So multiple stories.
Is it possible that he was just on drugs and doesn't really remember what happened?
Well, keep that in thought. So he says when he regains consciousness, like I said, he found himself in a hole covered in a plastic bag with some dirt and rocks thrown on top. And he says it was only the attempts of dingoes. Remember dingo ate my baby?
Yeah, the
The
dingoes
dingoes,
tempted to eat him.
they were trying to claw at him they're trying to get through that plastic bag to get to him. And he says it was the 4 dingoes that were trying to claw at him what woke him up.
Oh wow! And probably helped him escape by trying to eat him.
By
That's
trying to eat
irony.
him, right?
Yeah.
But then my thing is, okay, but if you're in a bag, and again, this is pure speculation on my part, right? But if
Mhm.
you're drugged, you're in a bag, and there's 4 dingoes, how are you overpowering 4 dingoes?
I would just assume that the dingoes were like, "Oh crap, this one's alive."
And maybe they were like, okay, like, but I feel like it's a pack. They could
Yeah,
attack, but
you would
okay,
think they could take down a person.
yeah.
I imagine the dingo being like, "Oh man, my bad. Sorry, dude."
But you know what? I'm not in Australia. I don't know. I've only seen a
Yeah,
dingo at Kentucky Down Under, and they were like little, so they were like not full size dingo. So I don't know.
yeah,
I don't know.
and dingoes aren't as big as a wolf.
No, no,
You
no,
know,
not no. So he gets out of this bag and he's able to like stumble out. And so now he's, of course, Australia, a big part of Australia is desert. So he's
yeah.
walking through the desert of the Tanami Desert for days. He says throughout
Jeez.
this time period, because it's hot, it's reaching like 104 degrees in the daytime. So he says, like, as he's walking, there's times where he's just losing consciousness and because heat exhaustion. Think
Yeah.
about it. He's got no food, no water. He's out in the middle of the desert. He's trying to survive. So he's obviously going to pass out several times. It's never really truly been fully established how Ricky became as lost as he did because he was on a path and then, he was taken off the path, but how far off the path was he actually taken?
Yeah.
We don't know. He
He,
said,
he didn't have his GPS on, so you could
no, his
Google
Tom
track
Tom
his
wasn't.
location.
No,
Yeah.
his Tom Tom wasn't working. So he says he survived by eating leeches, insects, snakes, ants, and lizards, and edible plants. And he says he drank water from, quote, various dams and water holes, and he scavenged the bush every evening, eating only 1 meal a day just to stay alive. In an interview with ABC Radio, he said, I ate the leeches raw, straight out of the dam. Grasshoppers, I ate them. But the only thing I sort of had to cook was the frogs, which I slipped onto a bit of wire and stuck the wire onto the top of my humpy, let the sun dry them out for a fair bit until they were a bit crispy, and then I just ate them.
Yeah. So I mean, he made frog jerky.
Basically. And then he said when water was unavailable, he would, well, just drink his own urine.
That's what they say you should do if you don't have water, because it's like the body is not super efficient in like getting all the nutrients out. So it's at least water in there.
Right. So he said he'd chill it How he chilled it? Uh, because
Kind of,
you're
yeah.
in the desert?
What did you? Yeah, you didn't bring a thermos.
Right. So he said he would chill it to suppress the flavor and then he would drink it. Of course, the temperatures in Arizona, oh, oh my goodness, Australia. I don't know why I almost said Arizona. He is
Kind of
not in the United
comparable.
States.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
I mean,
But the
from like a habitat, and we do hear about like hikers getting lost in Arizona, New Mexico, you know, the American West as well.
yeah. So, of course, if you know anything, if you've heard anything about the temperatures in Australia, you know they can be very extreme, very warm
Mhm.
during the day, very cold at night. So he created temporary shelters from the sun out of branches, and he eventually found what he said was a decrepit old windmill. He said he made a little humpy out of a feed trough that was at some cattle yards. And he said, obviously, at a mustering point, I thought to myself, I've got to survive. So he said, so I've dragged it up on top of the dam. I flipped it over, dug a hole. He said, I lived in there for 10 weeks.
10 weeks.
10 weeks.
So he went
10
full
weeks.
Robinson Crusoe.
And I'm not laughing at him. I'm just like, that is such a like horrific, horrific like
I mean, but I guess after a
situation.
while, you just get used to it. You know, it's not like he's got neighbors to compare himself to. Like, you know, he's got his frog jerky. He's drinking urine. You know, he's got a little house.
Also, I had no idea what a humpy was. A humpy is a small temporary shelter that's traditionally used by Aboriginal people.
So it's a kind of, it sounds like a lean-to.
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes. So 10 weeks, that's what the how many days? 70 days, right?
yeah, it's a long time. That's, you know, he could have been in the wilderness in the Bible for less time.
Yeah. So, of course, after 10 weeks and you're just eating leeches, grasshoppers, and frogs, you know, some occasional snake, you're gonna get weak. You're gonna get
One would
real
think.
weak. He got so weak that he was unable to travel far on his daily foraging expeditions. At one point, he actually suffered an abscess in one of his teeth. And if you've ever had like a tooth infection or your mouth hurts, like
Mm-hmm.
you can't function. I don't like you could have a toe like your toe could hurt. You could have a broken foot, and you're like okay, but when their mouth hurts, it's like you
Yeah,
can't do anything.
and because it there's never like an off spot when you're breathing, you know,
Right.
or swallowing. Yeah, it's not a good time.
Also, if you ever have an abscess and it's not treated, that infection can become deadly because it can get into your bloodstream.
Mm-hmm.
So he used a car key and he like scraped the
Gave
abscess out.
oof, gave himself some emergency dental surgery with a T in the outback.
Yeah.
It's
So
pretty hardcore.
he everything about this story, he seems really hardcore, right?
Yeah, or
So
like he's making it up.
so Ricky's finally discovered about 50 kilometers, which is about 31 miles from Birindudu Station, which is about
Okay.
310 miles from Catherine in the Northern Territory. His rescuers were locals, and they were what they call station hands, and their trainers are known as jackaroos. So the question is, what in the world is a jackaroo, and what in the world is a station hand? So a
Mm-hmm.
station hand is an employee who's involved in routine daily duties on a station or like a ranch, and they also may be involved in the carrying of livestock.
So it's like a
So,
cow pump.
uh-huh. So a jackaroo or a jillaroo is a young man or a woman that works on a sheep or a cattle station to get like experience to become like an
Okay.
owner, overseer, manager. Okay.
Yeah, you're like an apprentice.
Yes. So you've got the local station hands and the jackaroos that have found Ricky. So by now he's been out there, what, 70 days, 10 weeks.
Yeah.
He's sunburnt. He's starving. He's extremely malnourished. He's been exposed. So
He's had to do like emergency dental surgery with a key.
Yeah, seriously. So the Baron Dudu station manager, his name is Mark, he said that he witnessed Ricky Megee arrive. He said, and although the temperatures were high, it was also the middle of the wet season during that time, which would have been in Ricky's favor. He said
So
that
he's, yeah,
combined with the abundance of small wild animals and Ricky's, quote, hardy constitution, his
yeah,
chances of survival were pretty good.
yeah. So it wasn't the worst time to be able to walk.
That, according to this witness, he's saying, I mean, no, you don't want to get lost, but if you're going to get lost, this is the time you want to do it, and you got plenty of animals out here.
Yeah.
It was just a walking skeleton when he was brought to the station, and said that the area that he was found in was one of the most isolated in Australia. But again, remember, he said it was during the wet season.
Yeah, it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, the little small animals.
Like that guy must be fun at parties. He's like, yeah, you were stuck out there for 70 days, but at least it was the right time of year.
Right. At least it was the wet season and not the dry season. So, you had some water.
Yeah. What did you have to complain about, really?
Yeah, he's a real lively one. So now remember, the journey started in January. So now we're on April 5th of 2006. Ricky has been discovered. He's flown to the Royal Darwin Hospital, where the medical staff said that he was emaciated but well hydrated. So
well,
while
good thing it was the wet season,
because he had a lot of urine to drink. So the police interview Ricky at the Darwin Hospital, and they dismissed some suggestions that there was any kind of criminal activity on Ricky's part. They said they were unable to find any evidence of any criminal activity at all, really. Like,
just sounds like a dude got lost.
Yeah, they said they couldn't even find his stolen car. So, like, 5 months, you would think it would have turned up somewhere. Like, in that 5 months, you would have think, hey, there's a random car here. Hey, you check the tags. This belongs to Ricky. Like, where's Ricky?
But it's like off in Sydney with new license plates. Those 4 guys are having the time of their lives just driving around.
He discharges himself from the hospital after just 6 days. Now remember,
he's like, hey, this place is way too nice. I got to get back to my Humpty.
I need to go back to the Humpty and dry out some frogs, make them crispy.
Yeah.
Again, his Mitsubishi Challenger is never found. He, over the course of these 70 days or 10 weeks, he lost 130 pounds, half of his original body weight.
Yikes. I mean, that's a heck of a diet. I'm a little surprised somebody hasn't tried to make it a trendy diet. The leeches and crickets
don't know.
Frog jerky diet.
I really want to lose weight, but I don't want frog jerky or leeches.
I mean, have you ever tried frog jerky, though?
No, it doesn't sound like the jam for me. I don't want to.
No, that's fair.
I don't want.
You wonder if, like, I don't know, not gonna.
Yeah. Were you totally gonna go off on another?
I was gonna be like, so could they still be alive inside him? I'm like, no, I'm already.
Oh, okay, all right, no.
Yeah. Yep, that's not cool.
So the newspaper, the Sydney Morning Herald, they report on Ricky's story, and they suggest that there could be some discrepancies or doubts on Ricky's account of the story. They even report that Ricky was attempting to sell his story to a commercial television station. Apparently, allegedly, the police had some initial doubts about his story too, due to his previous minor drug convictions.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure they looked at that and be like, oh, well, this guy's just, high on something. He's probably only been out there like a day.
So Ricky says, look, you guys, I'm telling the truth. You can sit here and try to say that, this doesn't add up or this doesn't add up. He said, but I'm willing to prove to you that I really did what I had to do, and I'll go on live television and eat frogs to prove that I'm telling the truth.
Okay.
So ABC Radio said that Ricky had told his story to them for absolutely free, although only after he tried to persuade the station to match a $15,000 offer that he had received elsewhere.
Oh,
Which, if you had received a $15,000 offer, would
why
you
didn't
turn
you
it
take it?
down? That's
I mean, I
a
guess
question.
if he thinks like, oh, I'm going to get more from this other station,
Mm-hmm.
but wouldn't you just turn around and like call that guy back up, or was it like limited time offer?
I don't see, that's
Was
the
it like
thing.
Amazon Prime days where it
Right.
we'll only give you $15,000 for this story today, Monday or
You got
Tuesday?
today. If I don't hear from you by 11:59,
Yeah.
and then it was like 12:01, they're like, sorry.
Oh, sorry, man, you missed out.
So there was a doctor. Remember, he went to the hospital. So the doctor that treated
Mhm.
Ricky initially said that it was very difficult to either deny or validate his story, as he had responded so well to treatment that was provided by dietitians, nutritionists, and physicians.
So this diet that he was on not only helped him lose weight, but he recovered miraculously.
He recovered miraculously.
Something in those frogs, man.
A bush tucker man, which a bush tucker is like someone who deals in bush food, which is food native to Australia. So a
Mm.
bush tucker man named Les Hiddens, he's considered an expert on outback survival. And he did go on to acknowledge that Ricky's survival was not as surprising as people might think. He said it is possible to survive in the bush for up to 3 years, and that there are
Oh, wow.
some areas where it's difficult to survive, and there are others where you can. He said, for example, the area where Ricky was, he described it as dry country, which is pretty severe country.
Mm.
But other survival experts say that Ricky's survival was based on his instinct to solve the basic requirements for food, shelter, and water. And he adapted a survival mindset that pulled him through. So I
Yeah,
feel like,
he just Marie Kondoed his life. Only what was truly necessary.
right. I feel like Les was saying, like, yeah, it could have happened, but I mean, that area he was in, I don't know. But yeah, it could happen. Whereas these other people were like, no, no, no. He was just so intent on surviving. And like you said, Marie Kondo and he had to get the joy from surviving that
Yeah,
he was able to figure out food, shelter, and all that. Ricky has written a book on his experience, and he also
of
now
course he
lives
has.
in Dubai. He lives in Dubai and he works in construction. But that is the very mysterious, kind of a bit controversial story, survivor story of Ricky Megee, who, how did he get out there? What really happened? Did he survive in the bush? Did he not survive in the bush? I don't know.
There's a lot online if you search for Ricky. There's a lot of
There's a
stuff out there.
lot online.
And there's also a very I was joking about this, but you could buy essence of frog online.
Ooh.
And
Oh.
it's according to this website, it is helps you facilitates experiencing the everyday world as miraculous, helps one become aware of and to trust in life as a miraculous transformation process.
So is that like, I feel like it's like there's that one toad that if you lick it, you start to hallucinate. Is that like,
Yeah, but wasn't it like always an urban legend or something?
was it?
I don't know. I haven't gone around looking at a lot of frogs.
No, I can't say that I have either.
I mean, I think I've spent very little time in connection with frogs in my life.
I can honestly say that I have never once in life wanted to nor attempted to lick a frog or a toad or whatever.
Now, would you, if you had a talking frog, would you kiss the talking frog, or would you just keep it because a talking frog is cool?
What is the frog saying to me? Is the frog
That's
promising
probably
me
it's like, oh,
things?
I'm going to turn into like a handsome prince if you kiss me. I was like,
Mm,
what do we need more in the world? Handsome princes or talking frogs?
right. I think we need more talking frogs.
That's
So,
what I'm saying.
are you going to like share your fortune with me, talking frog prince? Because if not, then I get more money with you as a talking frog.
Yeah. I mean, also, it's nice to have a friend. You know?
It's true. It's true.
Somebody to talk to.
I was trying to think of the Golden Girls theme song and I couldn't think of it.
Now I can't think of it. was like, you gotta nope, that's
No, that's Toy Story.
that's Toy Story. Let this be known. This is probably the first time on Earth that someone has tried to think of something about the Golden Girls and come up with something from Toy Story, because there's not a lot of overlap.
I know. Oh my
Although,
gosh.
in a way, they're both stories about a group of friends coming together. So
That's what I'm saying. When you said you need a friend, it made me think of like the Golden Girls and their friend. Thank you for being a friend. See, that's it.
Thank you
for being a friend. Travel around the world and back again. Or is it the road?
Or just
down the road?
live in the outback for 70 something days.
I feel like after 70 days, you probably do talk to frogs and think they can talk back.
I mean, it makes complete sense. What was like Castaway? Tom Hanks talked to the volleyball Wilson.
Yeah, but there you
really
go.
would have thought that Wilson could float, but evidently.
But that is the wild, mysterious, what truly happened Survivor story of Ricky Megee.
And we will never know. But I love how the police are like, we don't think anything illegal happened.
We have no proof.
Like the only he doesn't look like anyone was, hurt other than this dude. So we're not gonna really look all that into it.
I mean, after 70 days, it's not like the drugs are going to be in his system. So if he was drugged, they couldn't prove it.
Yeah,
probably wouldn't have.
There would be no physical evidence.
Yeah.
No. Probably lucky to have clothes for living in the outback for 70 days.
How did he still have his car keys though? That's the other question though. If they stole his car, how did he still have his car keys?
There's a lot of unanswered questions with Mr. Ricky.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would trust to be if I was in a car accident and Ricky was the eyewitness, I'm not running to get his eyewitness report.
Oh man, but there you go. That's the B-side.
Well, I'm glad that the guy survived, I guess, and now he lives in Dubai as a construction worker. But that little end note maybe was like, okay, wait a second. He went to Dubai as a construction worker. Is he now trapped in Dubai? Did they take his passport and now he's trapped there too? Is this guy just
really trapped in Dubai? From what I've heard, Dubai is actually pretty nice.
Yeah, unless you're like a migrant worker. There's several countries down there that don't treat them so well. So, or at least it has been explained to me with the World Cup and all that stuff. So, hopefully he's doing okay. And he's still got his Essence of Frog going, and he'll someday get somebody to pay him for his story. The A side today is not nearly as exciting or as adventurous as Mr. Megee's adventure trek through the outback. But today, the 2023 Grammy nominations came out. As we mentioned a little bit earlier, virtually nothing on any network, television show was nominated. But what I always love about going through the nominations is just kind of like taking a snapshot of all the cool stuff that came out the last year. And the Grammys are always weird, or the Emmys are always weird. Sorry, the Emmy nominations. I think I said Grammy earlier.
I was looking like I thought we already had a Grammy, but I was trying to verify it real fast.
The Emmys are weird because it's not calendar year, because the TV season historically, when it was like the big networks, like the season starts in the fall and ends in the spring. So then the award show happens in the summer, which is kind of weird because you think about the Oscars, it's always like calendar year. The Grammys is calendar year. Tony's, I think, is a calendar year. But the Emmys are a little bit different. So it always throws me off. And because of that, there's stuff that is part of the season that is nominated that I forget about because it was so long ago. Like something like Blackbird with Taron Egerton and Paul Thomas Hauser, which was so good. But I'm like, man, that feels like forever ago.
Aren't you glad you don't have to keep up with that though?
Oh man, evidently there are over 20,000 voters in this year's nomination process, which is insane. Like that would you feel like that would take a year to just go through. And of course, the big names, the big shows got a ton of nominations. Leading the way was Succession, which we talked about with Matthew McFadden a couple weeks ago. Scored 27 nominations, which is insane. Ted Lasso got 21. The Bear, which is like feels brand new,
good, good.
Yeah, that's the one right now that everybody's talking about and focusing on. That they only got 13. But one of the cool things is seeing the new folks, one of the first time nominations, and you've got groups, people that famous names but have never been nominated before. So this year in the total nominations, of course, The Last of Us got 24, The White Lotus got 23, so the big noticeable shows, but there were 38 first time performers who got nominees this year. So everyone from somebody like Jessica Chastain, who feels like she's been nominated for tons of stuff before. Taron Egerton was for Blackbird. James Marsden, Jury Duty. Jury Duty did really well. I definitely have to watch it
You do need
because
to
you've
watch it.
mentioned that I should, and now it's getting nominated for awards. Jenna Ortega from Wednesday. Pedro Pascal actually got 3 different awards or 3 different nominations. One for The Last of Us, another for guest hosting Saturday Night Live, and then another for a documentary that he narrated. So, which I didn't even know existed.
Not for The Mandalorian, huh?
Not for The Mandalorian, but The Mandalorian's been nominated twice before. There were 2 Disney Plus Star Wars series that got nominated. Andor, which was incredible, was nominated in the drama series, and then a limited series nomination went to Obi-Wan, which kind of surprised me because I didn't think it was that much of a critic's darling, and it was short. It was like in the consciousness, but then kind of out of it so quick. So that one kind of blew me away. But then other folks like Aubrey Plaza, Harry Potter, Daniel Radcliffe got a nomination for Weird Al, which was on was that Apple Plus?
I think so. Yeah.
There's so many different ones. Bella Ramsey, who was the young lady from The Last of Us, Jason Segel, who I guess had never gotten one. That kind of blows me away. And of course, Jeremy Allen White from The Bear. But the name that jumped out at me and who I decided to focus on for the A side today was an actor that's been around for almost my entire life in the public consciousness, but never really a star. And in fact, digging into his background a little bit, you find out like even after his most famous role, he only got paid $40,000 for it and had to start working at a taking odd jobs like a bartender and working as a furniture salesman in the 80s and
What?
early 90s just to make ends meet and make his car payment. And of course, I'm talking again another of the Succession crew. They had, I think, 14 acting nominations. Like pretty much if you were in the show, you got nominated.
Mm-hmm.
If your character had more than one appearance, you got nominated. And people said it's one of the best final seasons of a show. I am still so far behind. I'm still in season 2, so I
Hey, I'm
cannot
behind
speak
you.
to this year's.
I'm in season
You've
0.
never. I was like, you haven't even started.
Right.
Like you know as much about Succession as I know about Love Island UK. So, which isn't great. But of course, Alan Ruck, who everyone would
I like
probably
him.
recognize. Yeah, he plays the oldest brother on Succession. He's sort of a goofy guy, Connor Roy, the oldest one. But of course, he is most known for being Cameron Fry in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, that came out back in 1986.
Don't you
That was
dare
really
forget Spin City.
well. Yeah, I'm getting there.
Okay, my bad. Sorry. I pulled
Man.
an Adam on you.
As he did, yeah. When I was like, "Oh, was he on drugs?" You're like, "Nope." We'll get to that, Adam. Slow down. Talk about the Australian guy. But he was in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which was the movie he got paid $40,000 for, and then the movie made like 70 million. And
Dang.
there'll be an interview that'll be available on our website, bsidepodcast.square.site. You can see all of our links to all of our source material. There's an interview that he did with Cracked a few years ago talking about that, where he's like, I had to get a job because no one would hire me. Like, I am not a leading man type. I'm a character actor, but I also like don't look like a cop or a lawyer. So I
Mm-hmm.
can't really be a cop or a lawyer. And he was having a hard time getting roles. He was in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, but in the late 80s, he didn't have a lot more success. I mean, something called Three for the Road and then Three Fugitive, Bloodhounds of Broadway. He was kind of in Young Guns too, which wasn't even the best Young Guns movie. But in the
No.
mid 90s, he finally starts to get some good character roles in blockbuster movies again. He was one of the passengers in Speed. He was the guy at the beginning on the bus who was basically just trying to get off being a jerk to everybody. And by the end, they're all working together in sort of like a Stockholm syndrome sort of thing. I forgot this completely, but he was in Star Trek Generation as the successor to Captain Kirk on the Enterprise. He was in
Mm.
Twister as one of the storm chasers. He was in, of course, in the '90s as well. He was on Spin City with Michael J. Fox, so he had
Mhm.
the benefit of working with probably like Michael J. Fox and Matthew Broderick, who was in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Always have felt kind of like the same, like sides of the same coin, like very similar actors, very similar. I enjoyed them both a whole lot. So he was on Spin City, and then of course Spin City, once Michael J. Fox left the show because of his Parkinson's diagnosis, Charlie Sheen, which I completely forgot. There were a couple seasons of Charlie Sheen replacing Michael J. Fox on Spin City in the early 2000s, which was just looking back, that feels very, very strange.
Yeah.
Uh, so Alan Ruck actually got the job for Ferris Bueller's Day Off on Matthew Broderick's recommendation, and they had worked together in Neil Simon's Biloxi Blues on Broadway the year before in 1985. And
Oh.
the John Hughes said the reason that Alan Ruck, who really had no film credits, no starring roles to that point, got the role pretty much because of his friendship and chemistry with Matthew Broderick when they did the audition and the screen test thing. So that's kind of cool. They were real friends in real life. That's why I think it feels so natural in the movie as well. But he's been in a lot of little things, guest starred in TV shows like Cougar Town. He was in episodes of Eureka and Psych and Boston Legal and NCIS Los Angeles, Justified, Grey's Anatomy, all the regular TV shows, showing up one episode here or there, but didn't really make a big move into the public consciousness until he got Succession, which came out in 2018. So it's been years of just being kind of that guy from Ferris Bueller and Spin City,
Hmm.
but most people know him from Ferris Bueller before he shows up on Succession, and was not nominated in any of the earlier seasons. Was not seen as the outstanding performer. Wasn't getting like a lot of other roles because of it. But now in the final season, got finally this today got his first Emmy nomination. And there's a really cool interview on the Cracked interview that I linked, that where he talks about how everybody in the on the cast was reaching out to people that had already been nominated. They were calling him up. Matthew McFadden, we talked about just a couple weeks ago in another episode, was one of the first to text him. So you see this guy who was born in 1956, so he's 67. He's finally getting his first Emmy nomination, his first laurels, finally getting his flowers
I love that
towards the
for
end
him.
of his career. So if you're like me and you're like, man, I feel really old at 42, maybe life has passed me by and I'm not going to be able to get to do all the things that I wanted to do. Evidently, I still have 25 more years
Yes.
before I have to even start worrying about that, which is a long time. Um, I don't know that I'm going to make it 25 years, because he seems to be in a lot better shape than me. He was actually on his way to the gym when he got the call that he had been nominated for an Emmy. So
So that's the key. You
that's
need to head
probably
to the gym.
I need to start going to the gym, and people will nominate me for Emmys. I think that's the direct correlation. So, but it's awesome to see the show get the attention, and it's cool to see somebody that I've watched my entire life pretty much in various things as small parts get the recognition finally late in life. So pretty cool. The Emmys may not even happen
Yeah.
because if everybody goes on strike tonight, then they may have to postpone, and the writers could
Well,
be on strike.
was it the Tonys that they just recently had, and they did it completely I mean, there
Yeah,
was no
completely
writers, and they
unscripted.
had to kind of do it on the
I
fly.
think
I
the
don't
I think the bigger thing is that if the actors go on strike, none of them would show.
know in them show, right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it's hard to give
Valid point.
statues to people who aren't there, although that does happen in the extent show. But if nobody's there, I feel like the TV ratings are not going to be great.
Yeah.
Because like who would even host it? It'd be like some like producer that we don't know, because
Right.
they're not in SAG or AFTRA, and so they're not striking, or somebody across the pickets line just to host the Emmys. I think that'd be a bad career choice. So it'll be interesting to see if it actually comes often it actually happens, but cool to see a lot of people get their first nomination, and especially for Alan Ruck for his performance in Succession. And if you're not into the whole Succession thing, just go watch Spin City or Ferris Bueller. Because I think part of this has to be a little bit of a lifetime achievement role. Somebody that's been a good soldier within Hollywood for a long time, taking all these different roles, finally getting a little bit of notoriety. And that is
wait, don't end the A side yet. Don't end it yet.
I'm not. I wouldn't dare.
I can't remember if we talked about this, but after doing the shows, and that is a SAG-AFTRA position, I think technically I'm SAG-AFTRA.
Oh, really? So are you going to be striking? Do we need to tell work?
Yes. I think I need to call out. I need to be in solidarity.
That's right. You got to get yourself on the picket line with one of those like big signs. One of my favorite all-time jokes from the late great Mitch Hedberg is he's against picketing, but he just doesn't know how to show it. So you'd have to figure out the picketing system. But that's kind of scary. I didn't even realize.
Yeah, because you have to be.
Are we gonna have to stop the podcast if you go on strike?
No, because we're our own writers. So.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, someone writes this?
Right. Sorry, they're fired.
Yeah. Meanwhile, people listening are like, I thought they already were.
But isn't that a wild like revelation? Like I thought about that.
That's really cool.
I think like technically because it is a SAG-AFTRA position, like it's all weird how it works.
You're a voiceover artist, so I mean that's pretty cool. I mean, not cool that like there's going to be a strike and all that stuff, but
I mean, hey, if it next year helps me get more money, I am all for it, and I don't get like residuals. Like the show's streaming, I don't get anything from that.
Yeah, they don't. I'm guessing there's. Well, I mean, I've watched it on streaming, but I mean, I'm guessing it's probably not getting like Last of Us.
No, I don't think so.
Game of Thrones streaming numbers, but still pretty darn cool.
Yeah. Okay, now you can end it.
No, sorry. And that is the A side. And hopefully we'll have more episodes in the future unless Brooke is on strike. And then maybe it'll just be like me sitting here talking to myself, which is very interesting.
Which you do anyway, so this time
that's
you
true.
Just be recording it.
So I just be recording it. It'd be like practice. So check out our website, asidebsidepodcast.square.site. We'll have all of our links to our sources, like I mentioned, the interview with Alan Ruck, some really cool stuff about his career in there. We've got probably links to the story of Mr. Megee and his psychedelic frogs in the Australian outback. So if you want to dive into that story, we will not have a link to the Essence of Frog website. You can just Google that because I'm not sure it's real frog until we get some details on that. We're not going to promote it unless it's the real legit thing. So on our website, you can also like and follow us on all of the different streaming platforms. Lately, the Apple Podcasts have been the #1 listening platform, so thank you, Apple Podcasts and folks that use that. But we're of course on all the other ones as well. You can buy merchandise, you can buy Brooke a coffee so she can get through editing all of this, because if it sounds cohesive, if my stuff makes sense, you could only imagine how much time she has spent piecing my words together to make it sound at least plausible, like it's a sentence. So in that sentence right there was really bad, so I can only imagine what Brooke's going to do to that one. But yeah, and did I miss anything, Brooke?
No, you got it all.
Excellent. Well, and we will hopefully see you for episode 144 in the future if we're not on strike.
All right, go SAG-AFTRA.
Yeah, go strike. I mean, I'm going on strike too. Just I'm not a member of anything. I mean, I wouldn't be a member of any club that would. Yeah, I wouldn't be a member of any club that would take me, I think is the famous line. So, but I will go on strike too.
Oh, man. All right. That's episode 143. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you, bro.